Gernot, thank you for being with us today. We are at Petrus Advisors shareholders of shy of 3% of Moneta. And I'd like to start off by asking you about your career in Erste, which you recently retired from, and then obviously your time in the Czech Republic, so that our viewers will understand your competence and knowledge about the Czech Republic.
Well, I spent in total more than 9 years in the Czech Republic, from 1999 to 2004. I was part of the acquisition and due diligence team when Erste was buying Česká spořitelna in the privatization. And I spent there my first term until 2004. Then I moved to Salzburg and then came back in May 2007 as a CEO of Česká spořitelna, and I spent 4 years as a CEO there. It was quite an interesting time. It was during the financial crisis, which did not really impact the Czech Republic. And yeah, I have very good memories, very high opinion of the country. And I mean, spending the time during the financial crisis in the Czech Republic was one of the best places in banking, because the country until now has a structural overhang of savings over loans. So the people are saving a lot. I was always very positive on the Czech Republic. I mean, and 100 years ago it was the top 5 countries in the world.
You also met Thomas Spurni in your career at Erste Bank. He worked for the group when you were there.
He was CEO in Romania when I was there. I know him personally, and we had some interesting times together. And he came there when it was really a challenge in Romania, and he did a good job.
We've gotten to know him as a very good cost cutter, very cost-conscious person, which is part of what he was able to do with Moneta, is really make it a leaner organization, and then also find growth avenues. He was also quite a cost cutter at Erste, right?
Yeah. He was really tough on this. Sometimes he was overdoing it a little bit, but yeah, I think when you work hard and try your best, then overall, I think the results speak in his favor.
So rates went from what, 2.5% was the rate a year ago, and where is it now, the deposit rate of the Czech Republic?
I think they cut it to whatever, 25, 50.
From?
It is 200 basis point
200
reduction
basis point
in a very short period.
And that means if you are a bank that relies on bonds and repos, you are totally shafted, right? Because you're still paying for deposits.
The repos is the bigger hit. The bonds were not that high because the short end was higher than the long end. I don't think that the economy will rebound that quickly, that it pushes the central bank to raise rates. I think the latest forecast, they were talking about probably 1% repo rate in the end of this year. So a much slower rebound of rates in comparison to the cut.
But you would also choose a strategy like Moneta has chosen it, with lifetime savings and asset management, when you look at the Wüstenrot transaction. And that would be preferable to pure savings and loans that we described. These pure asset gathering strategies is difficult, because who would you lend to, or what's your view on what the best strategy is going forward?
First, the customer behavior and the customer allocation will change as well in the Czech Republic, and will be similar as we've seen in Western Europe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's areas like life insurance, fund businesses, you name it, will have growth rates, and the typical bank deposit will have a relatively lower share going forward.
And if you look at the current proposal, where Moneta would be in a transaction that values it slightly above book, but then PPF has basically demanded a very substantial premium of 2.4 times book for their assets. Would that make any sense, given the strategic quality of Moneta versus the asset gathering businesses?
It's a relatively big gap, I would say, but I have not studied PPF assets in more detail. What would support such a big difference in the valuation? But I would say a balanced bank should have a reasonable valuation in the Czech Republic.
Now, I don't know whether you saw, but Moneta in October basically substantially raised their guidance. They're going to be more profitable in 2020 than previously anticipated. They're a growing institution on the back of the purchase of Wüstenrot. Wüstenrot does exactly what we've identified as the key future. It's asset management, life insurance, talking to people about how to invest money. If you're now in a situation like Thomas, I mean, how would you feel? I mean, you'd have to go and fight really hard to see that you gave a promise of doubling your profitability in 4 years, right? So the natural intention of the management team is to take it honorably and say, look, I'm worth X.
Yes, I would.
He needs to go out and do that.
See this as a. I think, I mean, when they recently raised their guidance, then they have reason to do so.
But when you're a manager, someone comes to you with such a proposal, you'd say no, and then if he does it, it's clearly hostile, right?
Yes.
I mean, someone came to you and said, I got a great bargain, you buy me a 2.5 times book,
yes,
you say, thank you, not happening.
I would at least send my CV somewhere, because I don't think that I would sit there very long.
And what would you do when you're confronted with this? I mean, you ran the premier financial institution in this part of the world. So when something comes to you, what's your fiduciary obligation as a manager to make sure you take it seriously, you structure it, and you basically answer to both the party that is interested and your shareholders?
I mean, we had a situation that I think it was in 2002. Erste came and wanted to made a takeover offer to the remaining shareholders, and had the intention to delist Česká spořitelna at that time. For us as a management team, it was really a very difficult time and discussions, because we wanted to act in the best interest of the shareholders. So
Spořitelna, of course.
Spořitelna, yeah. And
not of the acquirer.
Yes, what we did at the end of the day, we hired an investment bank and were asking them for a fairness opinion. And after we had this opinion, which was basically confirming that the offered price was fair, we came out with a statement.
And let's assume the transaction fails a second time, because no one gets excited about Airbank and home credit and the peer-to-peer lending. What would you think would be the consequence? First of all, Moneta standalone, we talked about it. Is it something you like as a bank standalone, as a strategy that possibly they acquire something else?
Well, first, I mean, there are still small banks in the Czech Republic that they can acquire. I mean,
there's quite a number of them, right?
Wüstenrot transaction was quite interesting. And then there are below the top three, the one or the other institution where Moneta would be an interesting fit. And let's not forget.
Could be acquired by someone. Could that happen?
I think so. I think so, that this is a potential. I mean, Spořitelna cannot do it because of the dominant position these two institutions have in the consumer lending. Yeah. So, but everybody else could theoretically do it.
And what would you think is the strategic value that Moneta brings to such acquirers?
Basically, I mean, as a very solid basis, this was always the case. As a GE already, this was the number 2 consumer lending bank in the Czech Republic. So you have a lot of customers, a lot of data and knowledge about the customers, and people who are in their younger ages taking loans over their lifetimes and their careers. They start to save or come from a consumer loan, then they invest in their first flat and have a mortgage loan, and then getting old and earning higher salaries. They are natural customers who are staying with the bank.
I thank you for your time. Thanks for giving us great answers. And I think that in this particular instance, everything has to change so it can stay the same. Thank you very much.